Chosen one, notice what is happening inside you right now. There is a quiet knowing in your chest, not fear, not excitement, something between the two. The feeling of standing at the edge of something enormous you cannot yet see. Most people were taught that God's blessing looks like things being added to your life. More favor, more provision, more doors opening. So when things start leaving instead, when relationships shift, when plans fall apart, when everything you carefully built begins to loosen, the mind calls it failure. Your spirit calls it something else. Because before every great elevation in history, there was a stripping. Joseph didn't look like he was being elevated when he was thrown into a pit by the people closest to him. David didn't look like a king when he was hiding in caves, running for his life. Moses didn't look like the deliverer of a nation when he was tending someone else's sheep in a wilderness, far from everything that once mattered. What they were experiencing, what you may be experiencing right now, wasn't the absence of God. It was the sound of God recalculating the route, deleting the old file so he could install something new. You are not in a hallway forever. You are standing at the exact moment the door opens. God is about to reset your entire life. And it begins tonight, not with thunder, not with drama, but with a meeting. A quiet, sacred, irrevocable meeting between you, exactly as you are, and the God who has been engineering every step of this journey to bring you to this moment. Your next mission starts here. Before we go any further, if you stay with me all the way through tonight, you are going to walk away understanding three things that most people never grasp about a divine reset. Why it begins with loss and not blessing. What God is actually doing to your inner signal while the outer circumstances are shifting, and how to finally meet God in the middle of the process instead of waiting for the end. Stay until the closing. What we do there together is worth it. Let me tell you something that is going to reframe everything you have been living through. Most people are waiting for the reset to arrive like an event. A specific morning when they wake up and everything is different. A phone call, a sudden open door after years of closed ones. And so they wait, scanning the horizon, watching for the big moment, while missing what is already happening all around them. The reset does not arrive all at once. It moves in phases. And the first phase, the one that is almost always misread, is what I want to show you first. God calls it clearing. We call it loss. Think about what has been leaving your life recently. Not the things that were broken, most of those you were glad to see go. I mean the things that were comfortable, the relationships that were safe but not right. The version of yourself that was built on managing other people's expectations. The identity shaped by years of trying to be enough for people who were never going to see you clearly anyway. These are the things that leave first in a reset. And because they were not obviously wrong, their departure feels like something going off script. It isn't. When a phone is running corrupted software, it doesn't matter how good the new apps are, they cannot function correctly on a broken foundation. A reset has to clear the corrupted layer first. And that clearing does not feel like progress. It feels like loss. It feels like standing in a room where furniture used to be, wondering if anything will ever fill the space again. If you have been grieving things that shouldn't logically hurt this much, hear me when I say this. You weren't losing something broken. You were releasing something that was finished. There is a difference. And God knows the difference even when you cannot feel it yet. That is the first phase. But here is what most people don't know. After the clearing comes the stillness, a season where nothing seems to be happening. The noise has gone quiet, the busyness has slowed. And in that quiet, the mind starts to panic. It starts to compare. It starts to wonder if the reset is actually just abandonment in a different costume. Think of Moses, 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years of not being where he thought he was supposed to be. Not doing what he thought he was made to do, tending sheep in a land that was not his, living a life that felt like a chapter someone wrote by mistake. And yet God was not absent in any of those 40 years. God was installing something in him that no palace could have built, the patience that would survive Pharaoh's resistance, the humility that would allow him to hear instead of demand, the rootedness that would keep him standing when everyone around him was breaking. The stillness is not emptiness, it is the installation phase. And if you have been in that stillness, if you have been in a season where nothing seems to be moving, where your prayers feel like they are landing somewhere between the ceiling and the sky, this is what I need you to hear. God is not pausing. You are not on hold. Something enormous is being built underneath the surface of your life, and it cannot be rushed, and it cannot be seen from where you are standing right now. This alone would be enough to change how you see your season. But I have not told you the deepest part yet, because the reset is not only about your circumstances, it is not only about what leaves and what arrives. It goes deeper than that, much deeper. And to understand the next layer, we need to talk about something that most voices in faith spaces never address: the frequency of who you are. There is a passage in the book of 1 Kings that has always stayed with me, and it is not a famous one. Elijah, one of the greatest prophets in the ancient record, has just come through one of the most intense spiritual battles of his life. He is exhausted, he is hiding, and God shows up. But not in the earthquake, not in the fire, not in the wind that tore the mountains apart, in the still, small voice. I used to read that passage and think it was simply a beautiful image of divine gentleness. But I believe something much more specific is being said. God was not in the dramatic, because the channel for divine communication does not operate in the frequency of noise and chaos. It operates in something quieter, something most of us have been slowly losing access to for a very long time. Scientists call it gamma. It is a specific brainwave state, the highest frequency the human brain produces, and it is associated with peak insight, deep intuition, and the moments of sudden clarity that seem to arrive from nowhere. Researchers at Harvard, MIT, Princeton, and Stanford have been studying this state for decades, and what they have found is this: gamma is not a rare gift that only certain people are born with. It is a God-given capacity that every human being arrives in this world carrying. And somewhere around the age of 7, most of us start losing access to it. Not because something goes wrong with the brain, but because the environment we grow up in, the academic pressure, the need for constant performance, the low-grade stress that becomes so familiar, we stop noticing it. These things progressively suppress the gamma state. The scientists call it the decline effect. And what it means in practice is this: the very frequency where divine communication is most clear, where the still small voice is most audible, where your own God-given intuition is most alive, that frequency gets quieter and quieter as life gets louder and louder. This is why so many chosen ones feel like they used to hear God more clearly. When you were younger, before the weight of the world settled in. When you used to know things without knowing how you knew them. When the right direction seemed to arrive before you had even finished asking the question. That was not just childhood, that was gamma. And here is what this means for the reset. God does not only reset your circumstances, He resets your signal. He clears the noise of a life that has been suppressing the frequency so that you can receive what He is saying. The isolation of the wilderness was not abandonment, it was God removing the interference. The confusion of the clearing was not chaos, it was God making your old maps useless so that you had to stop navigating by them and start listening again. When I understood this, not just the spiritual dimension but the physiological reality underneath it, I started looking for what actually supports the restoration of this inner channel. And I want to share something with you that I believe intersects directly with what we have been talking about. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, with 34 years of research experience, developed a 7-minute audio track built on the same brain entrainment technology that these major research institutions have studied. It is called the Genius Song, and its purpose is straightforward: to guide your brain back into the gamma state. Not through effort, not through years of practice. Just 7 minutes, a pair of headphones, and the technology doing exactly what it was designed to do. I want to be honest with you. This is a tool, not a miracle. Nothing replaces the work of actually walking through this season with God. But if what we have been describing resonates, the suppression of the gamma frequency, the dimming of that still small voice, then this is a practical support for what God is already trying to restore in you. The standard price is $49. For those watching this video specifically, Dr. Lake has made it available for $39, and that price does not exist anywhere else. Not on Amazon, not anywhere. You also receive 4 bonuses alongside it, and the entire purchase is backed by a full money-back guarantee. There are imitation versions, circulating audio files, carrying the Genius song name that do not contain the actual entrainment technology. The only way to access the genuine version with the full technology and everything that comes with it is through the link I have placed in the description and the pinned comment of this video. That is the only source. For those who feel called to explore this, it is there. For those who don't, what matters is this: God is working to restore your signal. That is part of what the reset is doing. And understanding that changes how you receive everything happening around you right now. But we are not finished yet, because we still have not answered the deepest question. Not what the reset is, not how it works, but why now? Why this season? Why you? When you hear the answer, something inside you is going to finally settle into place. Chosen one, there is a question underneath the reset that most people never ask. They ask when it will end. They ask what it is building toward. They ask whether they have taken a wrong turn somewhere. But the question that changes everything, the one I want to sit with for a moment, is simpler than all of those. Why now? Not why is this happening? But why is it happening now, in this season, at this particular chapter of your life, at this exact age, and this exact place in your story? The answer has 3 parts. And the first one is this: you are more ready than you feel. I do not mean ready in the way we usually use that word. Not prepared, not comfortable, not having it all figured out ready. I mean something different, something that doesn't happen by achievement. It happens by formation. Think back 5 years. Think of who you were, not worse, not better, just different. Think of what you couldn't have handled then, that you could navigate now. The relational wisdom you didn't have. The discernment that hadn't been sharpened yet. The capacity to stay steady under pressure that only came because you had already been under pressure. Every season of waiting built something specific. Every closed door protected you from arriving too early at the wrong destination without the equipment the right destination requires. You were being formed, and formation is not visible from the inside. It never is. You do not feel yourself becoming stronger. You only discover afterward that you are. The reset does not arrive when you feel ready. It arrives when God has finished preparing you for what is on the other side. And the sign that the preparation is complete is not that you feel confident. The sign is that the things that used to hold you have started to loosen on their own. You noticed that, didn't you? The loosening. Now here is the second part of why now. And this one is larger. Some of you are not just in a personal reset, you are in a generational one. There are patterns that have run through your family line for longer than you have been alive. Financial ceilings that nobody ever broke through. Relational cycles that repeated in every generation without anyone understanding why. Spiritual limitations that were passed down the way furniture is passed down, just there, part of the household, never questioned. These patterns have an end date, and that end date is a person. It is the one who finally carries enough clarity, enough formed spiritual authority, enough willingness to do what those before them could not, to say, simply and firmly, "This stops with me." You may be that person, not because you are the most gifted or the most qualified, but because you are the one who is here, in this moment, receiving this understanding. Chosen ones are not chosen because they are exceptional. They are chosen because they are willing, and your willingness, even imperfect, even frightened, even uncertain about the outcome, is exactly what God needs at this particular junction in your line. And the third part of why now is this: God operates in what the ancient Greek language called kairos time. Not chronos, not the ticking of hours and calendar dates. Kairos is the appointed moment, the convergence point, the precise instant when your interior readiness, divine strategy, and the needs of the people around you all align at once. When the door that has been built for you, for this specific version of you, finally swings open because you have finally arrived at the threshold it was designed for. Tonight is a kairos moment. Not because of the date, but because something in you has reached a threshold, and thresholds, once reached, open. This is what it means when the title says, "It begins tonight." Not on a clock. In you, in the place inside your spirit where you are finally willing to stop managing the old life and receive the new one. But before I show you the deepest layer of all of this, I have to name something honestly, because there is one thing that can prevent a chosen one from walking fully through an open door, even when everything is aligned and the window is clear. It is not your past. It is not your mistakes. It is not your doubt. It is your attachment to who you used to be. The old identity is comfortable, even when it is painful. We know its shape. We know how to live inside it. We know what people expect of us when we are wearing it. And when God calls us to step out of it, there is a grief that comes, a real, genuine grief for the person we are leaving behind. Even when that person was built by survival and not by design, even when that identity was never fully ours to begin with. The reset cannot install what is coming into the container of what was. Something has to give way, and most people, when they feel that giving way, mistake it for falling apart. It is not falling apart. It is the door opening. Now, here is the thing I have been building toward since the very beginning of tonight. The reset was never primarily about your circumstances. I know how that sounds. We think about resets in terms of outcomes. Better relationships, financial breathing room, a clearer sense of where we are going and why, a sense that the promise is finally moving from words to reality. And those things are real. They come. But if you reduce the reset to its outcomes, you will miss its actual purpose. And the actual purpose is something far more intimate, far more permanent, and far more profound than any outcome. The reset is an encounter. God did not design this season to give you a better life and introduce himself on the other side of it. He designed this season so that in the process of everything being cleared and stripped and recalibrated, you would have no choice but to turn inward and find that he was there the whole time. Think about Joseph. Again, after everything, the pit, the false accusation, the years in prison for something he did not do, the forgotten promises, the silences that must have felt like the end of everything he believed, Joseph reaches the moment where he is standing in front of the brothers who sold him. And what he says to them is one of the most quietly devastating and beautiful sentences ever recorded. "You intended to harm me," he tells them. "But God intended it for good." The word I want you to notice is intended, not worked out, not salvaged. Intended. From the beginning, before the pit was dug. The pit was not a detour from God's plan. It was the plan. The prison was not an interruption of Joseph's destiny. It was the preparation for it. But here is the detail most retellings of this story skip over. Joseph did not receive the revelation of God's intention in the palace at the end. He encountered God in the pit, in the prison, in the years when nothing confirmed that the promise was still alive, and the silence pressed in from every direction, and the only thing left was the question of whether he still trusted the God he could no longer feel. The meeting happened in the middle, not at the end. And this is the deepest truth of your reset. Your next mission is not to survive this season until something better appears on the other side. Your next mission is to meet God inside it. to stop looking through the wilderness for the exit and to look right where you are standing for the one who is already here. The isolation of this season, God removing the noise so that you have to turn inward where he lives. The confusion, God dismantling the maps you were using instead of asking him for directions. The loss, God removing what you were leaning on in the place where he wanted to be leaned on. Not because those things were evil, because you were using them to maintain a comfortable distance from a God who is not interested in comfortable distance. He wants to be met, not admired from a distance, not thanked after the fact when the outcomes are good, met, encountered in the raw, unguarded, unimpressive, real middle of your actual life. And that changes everything about how you move from here. There are 3 things I want to leave with you, not as steps to force an outcome, but as ways to actually participate in the encounter rather than wait for it. The first is this: stop asking what you are going to do about your situation and start asking what God is doing in it. Every single morning, before the mind begins its list of problems and plans and things to manage, take 30 seconds and ask one question in the direction of your spirit. God, what are you doing here? Not what do you want me to do, what are you doing? Then listen, not for words, for a direction, a quiet interior lean towards something, a knowing that arrives before the explanation. That is your restored signal. That is the gamma channel coming back online. Trust what you perceive. The second, begin making your decisions based on alignment with who you are becoming rather than restoration of who you were. Every choice, even a small one, carries a question inside it. Does this belong to the old story or the new one? You do not need to see the entire new life clearly. You only need to know the direction. Take the next step in that direction, even when it costs you something familiar. And the third, begin to speak to yourself with the name God has given you, not the name your history assigned. You are not the person who almost made it. You are not defined by the delay. You are a cycle breaker, a seer, a pioneer, a spiritual warrior, a voice carrying things that the people around you need to hear. Speak those names over yourself, not because it changes the calendar, but because identity is not something you wait to receive when the circumstances confirm it. Identity is something you practice inhabiting until it becomes the ground you live from. The reset is not coming. It is here. The encounter with God is not later. It is now. Let's go there together. Wherever you are right now, sitting, lying down, somewhere in the middle of a day, or at the end of a long night, take one slow breath. Not because the breath itself does anything, but because the breath is your agreement that this moment is real, that you are present for what is about to happen. God, we come to you from exactly where we are. Not from the place we thought we would be by now, not from the life we planned, from right here in the middle of the reset, in the middle of the recalculating, in the honest and unfinished reality of a season that has asked more of us than we expected. And we are grateful, not in the performance way, not the gratitude that says everything is fine when it isn't, in the deeper way, the way that says, even in this, you have not left. Even in the clearing, you were clearing. Even in the stillness, you were building. Even in the loss, your hand was steady when ours were shaking. Thank you for every season that looked like loss but was formation. Thank you for the closed doors that kept us from arriving too early at the wrong destination. Thank you for the waiting that built in us what no shortcut ever could have built. You see what we have carried into this night. The prayers that felt like they went nowhere, the questions held in the dark because there was no one else to ask them to. The faithfulness in the small moments, the choice to keep trusting when nothing visible was confirming that the trust was warranted. You see all of it, every thread of it. And none of it has been wasted. Now we release. We release the old identity built for someone else's version of our life. Release. We release the fear that the reset means we got something wrong. Release. We release the timeline we designed that God has already recalculated. Release. We release the grip on what was comfortable but was never meant to be permanent. Release. We release the version of ourselves that survival built because that version served its purpose and its purpose is now complete. Release. We release the ceiling, the one that was never ours to begin with, the one inherited, the one that limited those who came before us but will not limit us. Release. We release the silence we mistook for abandonment. It was not abandonment. It was installation. And it is done. Release. Now we activate. Cycle breaker. Arise. The pattern that has run through this line for generations stops here. It stops with this breath. It stops with this decision. The chain ends. Seer. Open. The frequency is being restored. The still small voice is getting clearer. The intuition that was dimmed by the noise of survival is coming back online. You will know what you know. Trust what you perceive. Pioneer. Step. You are going first into ground that no one in your line has ever stood on. It is unfamiliar by design. You were made for the unfamiliar. You were built to go first so that those who follow you can do so without fear. Spiritual warrior, hold. The ground you are gaining is real. What is being built in you is real. You will not collapse under the weight of this season because you were not given it to collapse under it. You were given it to become unshakable inside it. Voice, speak. The things rising in you, the things you carry, the things you see, the things you understand, that the people around you are struggling to put into words, that is your assignment taking shape. It is time we cover this rising. We cover what is being newly installed from premature exposure. We guard what is being built from the noise that suppressed it and from every old pattern that would try to pull it back down. What has been lifted, let nothing return it. And now, slowly, with everything that is in you, I am not who I was. I am becoming who I was made to be. The reset is not happening to me. It is happening for me. The encounter with God is not coming. It is now. It is here. I receive it. I step into it. I will not shrink back from it. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. In Jesus' name. Amen. If this message reached you tonight, if something in you said yes while you were listening, type the word reset in the comments right now. Not for me. For you. Let it be the marker. The moment you said yes to what God is already doing. If someone in your life is in a season they don't understand, a clearing they are calling loss, a stillness they are calling abandonment, share this with them. You may not have words for what they are going through. This message might. For those who want support for what we talked about tonight, restoring the inner frequency, the Gamma channel where that still small voice is clearest, the link to The Genius Song is in the description and the pinned comment below. That is the only place to access the genuine version. I leave it there for those who feel called to it. Go carry what you received tonight. The reset is real, the encounter is real, and you are not walking into what comes next alone.